Welcome to another episode of Uniting Utah. Richard Davis, the United Utah Party Chair, is on vacation. I'm Jim Bennett, the Communications Director. I'm here with Hillary Stirling, the Vice President of the party. Vice Chair, I guess.
Vice Chair, yes.
There you go. Anyway, and we're also talking to Jonia Broderick, who is the United Utah Party Congressional candidate in the 4th Congressional District. Jonia, how are you?
I am doing great, Jim.
Glad to hear it. We want to take this opportunity to just introduce you to the world. We know how wonderful you are, but the world needs to know that too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and give us some of your background?
I would be happy to. So I was raised in Southern California, actually, and my very first political campaign occurred when I was in the baby stroller. My parents took me door to door during the presidential campaign, and they claim I changed a lot of opinions. I was all of 9 months old, if that, maybe 6. And so that was my first campaign. I continued just loving politics. Around our dinner table, we would often talk about politics, and it was a fun topic for me. I did a huge paper in 7th grade on the campaign between Reagan and Ford, and I had my favorite. So that was how I got involved in politics in the first place, was in my childhood. I have a lot of loves, however. So I have worked in music. I've worked as a teacher, a music teacher, a drama teacher, a cooking teacher, a journalism teacher. I've worked in journalism. I've worked in public relations. But my degree is in history. And history is probably my very favorite topic. I just love to look at the lessons of history and apply them to today. Just make correlations. I was giving a speech one day and I brought up the Napoleonic Wars, and there were some of the people in the audience were going, the Napoleonic Wars, what were those? But I just love bringing history alive. And I read an old referral letter from my journalism teacher that she wrote for me. And one of her things was, Jonia loves history and she will make history a part of any conversation. So that's very true. I was married for 22 and a half years, and we were blessed with one absolutely wonderful daughter. My husband passed away very unexpectedly.
And we made that connection when we met each other, that I had gone to school with your husband.
Yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah, he was just a wonderful, wonderful human being. I was very sorry to hear of his passing.
He was a wonderful human being.
I'm also a big fan of his father, who wrote the book My Parents Married on a Dare, that has some of the best advice I've ever seen anywhere. I took one class from his father when I was at USC. He actually subbed for a sociology class that I went to. But just a remarkable man, a remarkable family. And so just really, really nice to be able to make that connection with you.
Yeah, that was so fun. And one of the fun things, the day we met, Ben said, the one thing I will never do is I will never be a lawyer. He said, I hate lawyers. Lawyers are the worst. And I sat there just in that 3-hour conversation going, he's going to be a lawyer. But he was graduating in film production,
right.
Of all things.
I was a theater major and he was a film major.
So right. I've seen you in his films, I'm sure.
I think I did do a couple of student films with him.
Oh gosh, yeah, but he did. After selling insurance, selling stocks, he became a lawyer, as I knew he would. And that's what he was doing when he suddenly passed away 5 years ago. 5 years ago this week. So I packed up everything and I moved to Utah after that. And since I've been up here, I have been more involved in the community ever, than I ever thought possible. Gotten my daughter through college. I keep going to grad school, and there are all sorts of things to do that are fun and exciting ways to be involved up here. So that's a
Wonderful.
lot about my background.
I was going to say California's loss is our gain. So
California is not what Utah ever wants to be, I can assure you. We tried to move up here so many times and he just could not get work. So
Well, every time I go back to California, I get nostalgic until I spend 5 minutes in traffic.
yep.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Well, like I said, we're glad that you did land in Utah and that we've got you here. And so, you know, you mentioned that you've been interested in politics your whole life. You've been involved. So why this race? Why now? Do you feel like why are you running this time around?
The truth is there has never been a time that needed moderation more than now. Okay, that's hyperbole. Civil War era, and there are a few other eras you can think of that were also very divided. But we are an extremely divided country. And I I feel so strong that if we don't get nonpartisans running and winning, we will just get more and more and more divided in Congress. And so that's why now we need a fix, an immediate fix.
well, so that kind of is that the reason why you decided to run with the United Utah Party as opposed to running with one of the two major parties?
Absolutely. I was there. I went to a Constitution rally up at the Capitol. And while I was there, Richard Davis gave a speech, and he talked about wanting to form this new party. And he said, watch for emails. I'll be sending out emails. But I was so excited about it. Just from that day, I thought, I'm ready to leave my party, which was the Republican Party. I'm ready to leave the party behind. And this sounds like a good option. So when he started, I started paying attention, and it was exactly what I wanted.
Great. Again, we're glad you found us. So obviously, there are issues that are going to be important to your constituency, and you know there is an incumbent. So why do you think that you can speak to the issues of your constituency better than the incumbent does, or represent their view better?
I really feel that not being tied to one of the two major parties allows me to address the needs of my constituents better. I'm not tied to the party leadership. In Ben McAdams' case, Nancy Pelosi and some of those. I'm not tied to their dictates. And I'm not tied to the Republican leadership dictates. I can form coalitions or work with both sides and say, let's work together. And I don't have those ties. So
one of the questions that's asked of a lot of Republican or a lot of candidates running with the UUP is how can you be effective if you're not a member of the Republican or the Democratic parties? Do you have any kind of thoughts on that?
we have watched Justin Amash, who left the Republican Party to become an independent. And he, I think, is now a libertarian. He was looking at running for president as a libertarian. He has fared very well. He doesn't have ranking positions on committees, but he has a voice, and everyone knows what Justin Amash, that he means what he says, and they
Right.
take him seriously. And so you can make a difference not being, aligned with either party.
No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, when I was running, I had so many people talking about that, and the reality is that you're going to be in a position to be an honest broker between both sides, and you're going to have both sides competing for your vote, which makes you, I think, the center of attention,
Right.
and gives you the ability to essentially be the deciding voice on a lot of these divisive issues. So I think that's wonderful. So which issues then, what is it that you want to achieve as a legislator? Which are the issues that are most important to you?
Some of the issues include the issue of federalism. I think the federal government has way too much power. We need to get more power back to the states. As I've talked to mayors throughout my district, that's one of the things they say. They're tired of being dictated to from the federal government on every little thing. And they talk about the cost if you want to build a bridge in a city, the cost if they did it themselves or if they get federal funds. If they get federal funds, it's anywhere from 40 to 55% more money to build that bridge or to put in that road. And so we need to get this power back where it needs to be, where the states have more control over what the state should have control over. We've ceded way too much to the federal government. So that would be one of my top issues. I look at the issues that are hot button issues right now, criminal reform and police reform. And those are things that there's not a lot the federal government can do. More of that should be left to the states, but the federal government can look at things such as qualified immunity and say, get rid of that. We need to change that. And in fact, the recent police reform bill that was before Congress that passed in the House did not address qualified immunity, which is something the federal government can do. So that would be a topic for me. Healthcare, obviously, is a topic that Congress has to handle. They have to take it on. And if they don't, we're going to be in trouble. I've discovered as a widow just how messed up the healthcare system is, the insurance and the costs associated with that. When we were on Ben's healthcare from work, it was a lot simpler, a lot cheaper, and easier easier access to healthcare. So that's something I feel very strong needs to be addressed right away. So there are some of my top issues.
Sounds great to me.
Well, thank you so much, Jonia. Really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. I'm always happy to talk about what I feel. I mean, I just want to add one of the things that I talk to everybody about. I had someone over today. We were socially distanced. We were wearing our masks.
Good.
But we were talking about the need to quit demonizing people we don't agree with. Not all Democrats or liberals are socialists. Not all Republicans or conservatives are Nazis. And if we can, and that's one of the things I would love to just have a platform to get that message across.
No, I think that's a very important message. I think we need to be able to talk to each other. I think we need to be able to figure out ways to build bridges with the people who disagree with us.
Yes.
I mean, I think that that's one of the great things about the United Utah Party, and I think that's one of the great things about your candidacy is that you're very clearly willing to do that. So we appreciate you coming on and sharing this. Is there anything else that you think the world needs to know about Jonia Broderick? Where can they find more information about you?
They can find me at www.teamjonia.com.
Jonia.
That's right.
We've been talking to Jonia Broderick. She once again is the candidate for Congress from the United Utah Party in the 4th Congressional District. So thank you for being with us, Jonia. And Hillary, thank you for being here as well.
My pleasure, and great to see you again, Jonia.
Good seeing you. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Hillary.
And for all of you watching this, we'll talk to you next week. This has been Uniting Utah. Thank you very much for joining us.